Sure.
And I think that by protesting, we're also mobilizing people into a network, into an organization that can then do something later on that is even more targeted. So I think that's where I am, and I think it's good to feel maybe a sustained anger, maybe not a destructive anger, that's sort of uselessly spinning its wheels. But yeah, I think there's definitely a place for patience and contemplative, thoughtful processes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I definitely am. Like, I have been starting to see, like, what people are doing. And, like, like, beyond the protests, like, collaborating together to really, like, whatever comes our way, like, we're going to, combat it and really fight for people's rights. And I think, like, I usually kind of wait until, like, that happens, and then I, like, join in. I feel like I'm never really, like, the starter. I'm like, okay, this is, like, a lot happening, and so I'll, like, be a little delayed. But I think... Yeah, I think from what I've seen, at least, I mean, I think Champaign-Urbana can be a little bit of a bubble, especially if you've seen the rest of Illinois and, like, just surrounded. But I think that there will be enough people that will actually, fight for what's right and fight for people's rights. So I mean, I feel like that's been encouraging, and, like, people who have said things like that it's been encouraging to know that I don't think, like, I think there will be a lot of push, on kind of on both sides, which I think will be difficult, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't know how else I can describe it, really.
Interesting is a very apt term, I think. I don't know if that's the only word that applies, but
yeah,
it's definitely a good one, at least from the perspective of history. Like, looking back from 100 years from now, it should make great reading.
If we're still able to look back at history 100 years from now. Yeah.
Well, there is that question. I mean, we haven't even gotten to the environment. We're just sort of talking about racism and immigration, but there's sexism and religious bigotry and all sorts of things. I mean, it's interesting. Good work. and you're doubly kind of taking a hit here because you're healthcare and immigration.
Right.
So it's like you're going to get it two different ways.
Yeah. So I feel like I don't really know all the repercussions yet and what that might look like, but
I'm going to lose my health insurance. I know that, or I'm fairly sure, and whatever they replace it with is not going to be any help to me. In fact, they're planning, as part of their Obamacare repeal, to privatize Medicare. Did you know that?
No.
Paul Ryan, he's been planning this for years, and as far as he's concerned, that's part and parcel of the removing the Affordable Care Act is turning Medicare into a private insurance, a subsidized private insurance thing. So that Medicare will become more like Obamacare or Affordable Care Act or whatever. And Affordable Care Act will go back to whatever we had before, apparently, which is nothing. It's like if you can afford it, you're okay. And if you can't, you're not. At least that's the current plan as it stands now. Does that make you mad? I want to see steam coming out your ears. That makes me mad because I'm like, for years I've always thought, well, I've always been kind of poor or on the verge of being poor. And there was a period where I had a job in like a corporate sort of job. And I had good insurance, and I really liked it. That was nice. It's like
not having to worry about stuff.
Yeah, I didn't worry.
Yeah.
Then there was a point where they decided I needed a bunch of tests. No big deal. I just went in, got my tests, went away. It was like a little cushiony environment. The way life should be. And then when I switched jobs, it's like, oh, guess what? You don't have any insurance at all now. So ACA comes along. Oh, good, I can get insurance again, because at my age, I couldn't possibly afford it. A single insurance, that just would be. And I've had it for a little while. It isn't great insurance, but it was insurance. If that goes away, I'll just be uninsured. But always in the back of my mind, I thought, well, at least if I get old enough, Medicare will be there, and then I'll have that. But now apparently not. So I will probably have to work for the rest of my life.
Well, I'm really worried about people with pre-existing conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people, including people in my family, who might not be able to get health insurance if, they lose a job or if they switch jobs.
Right.
Because of conditions they already have. When I was 24 out of college, I had an MRI on my knee because I thought I had done something playing soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 years after that, I before Obamacare, it was really hard for me to get health insurance without high premiums because I had had an MRI on my knee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So the only good thing, I guess, is that just as this new administration can come in and overturn all those things, another one can come in and redo them. So it's not, nothing's permanent. There's always a sense of like doom, like, okay, this is the end. And it could be, but, things change.
Well, as long as we feel like we're able to sustain for the 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 years that it would require, which is that in and of itself is kind of scary.
Well, it was very, very difficult when Obama first came in. He had a Democratic majority in the Senate, and it was very difficult for him to get much done. I mean, there was so much to undo and so much to change. He has worked on it steadily for 8 years to try to change things. So it's not like who can come in the first couple of weeks just undo everything. It's going to take some time to unravel all this stuff and to destroy it or whatever they're going to do to it. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to be comforting and say positive things, and I realize I don't have.
Well,
I ain't got it.
One thing that I would say in terms of feeling angry about things is, and things that we can do on a day-to-day basis is just be aware of other people.
Yeah.
And if we, if people are, if we see people who are having their rights infringed upon by others, I think that we can stand up and say that's not right.
Yeah.
And I think that's one way we can use that anger. And I don't mean in a violent way or a physical way. I just mean, telling people that, we see them and we're not okay with their rights being infringed upon. And, if we can if we can help them feel safer or take them to a safe space, that's what we should do. And I think that, people are bullies. Some people are bullies. And if I don't, to me, in my life experience, when you stand up to a bully, they don't escalate. They usually back down, especially if you have strength in numbers. And I think that that's something that we can do that helps people tangibly on a day-to-day basis.
I hope so.
And it really it makes me so angry, and it makes me really sad when I see these news stories about people of color and gay people and women who are being assaulted and verbally and physically, and it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like they didn't know. It's not like we didn't know. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, really. I know I have. Every time I overhear someone in a conversation say, "Oh, I hate that. Oh, we're being too PC." I remember that for years. That's been a thing, and it's always concerned me and angered me. There's that anger again, make you more uncomfortable. But it's always concerned me because it's so stupid. It's such a stupid thing. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing, and it's so frustrating to hear people say that. But that's kind of what this is all about in a way, are people who feel like their right to be themselves has been contained by our culture, our liberal culture, or whatever you have it, that is infringing on their right to express themselves as they wish or as they prefer or whatever. And so I think we will be seeing a lot of that in the coming days, weeks, months. People just finally, and we're seeing it right now, but finally feeling like it's okay to be the jerk they've always wanted to be, We're just the cheeriest bunch. At least the TV people can see this. The radio people are sitting there like, what's going on there? They're just like so quiet. We're depressed, all right? Give us a break. We're depressed. It's hard. It's really hard. It's hard to process because there's so many different aspects of it. And it's hard for all those of us who have been working to try to help people to see, I don't know, I guess it'd be like if you had a job on an assembly line and you were just feeling like, I'm getting my groove down, I'm getting pretty good at this, and then somebody opened a window or a door and you peek that way and you realize, oh, they've just added like 10,000 extra parts that it will be coming down the assembly line in just a second. So whatever you thought you were doing, you suddenly have all this stuff to do. You thought you were almost done, or you thought you were getting somewhere. Because I really was thinking, all right, we're going to elect a new president. Republican Party will have kind of had this civil war, and one, they're going to lose spectacularly. So one part is going to be emboldened to like repudiate the other part, and so they may work with I had this all worked out, like how it was going to work, that we could get comprehensive immigration reform and we could get some stuff done, and it's like, oh no. No.
Back to square one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's sort of, so after the initial shock on Wednesday and then the subsequent anger and continued anger, and then I started thinking about schoolwork and getting back to the daily grind. And
Yeah.
I was just thinking to myself, well shoot, I think I actually have to rethink some things, because a lot of my research and my projects have been about refugee resettlement, and I don't know if that's gonna be around anymore. I mean, clearly there's gonna there'll still be support, hopefully, for refugees who have already been in the resettlement pipeline and who have been resettled already. But and in thinking about trying to attract immigrants, like that's maybe out the window.
Not for a while anyway. Yeah.
And I mean, you must have.
I mean, I think kind of, I've mentioned this probably before, the air, but just that, like, talking with my advisor, she was just saying, like, be prepared that we might go out without funding. Like, my research is like immigrant health and how how that benefits people. But like, she's like, I don't think they can revoke our funding, but like, you never know. So like, if they've already given it to us, like, who knows? But like, nothing's really guaranteed. So, and like, I know that she just applied for more funding for an additional grant for doing more immigrant health related things, and she's like, I have no hope that I'm really getting that anymore. And so it's really discouraging to know that. And I'm like, I kind of was thinking about that today, and I'm like, man, do I need to like start focusing on something else? Like, am I going to be able to continue doing this work, or I don't know. So I think that is, that's really interesting. I think also it was I've gotten to hear a lot of stories and just like fears from people. I am like a a grad mentor for this undergraduate class called Hispanic Health Promotion. And there's a lot of Hispanic students in that class. The majority are Hispanic students. And so we kind of just had an open time to talk after the election, like during our class. And, you know, a lot of people shared their fears. And sometimes, like, it's interesting because I think being Hispanic, I think I was able to relate to a lot of them, and having family that is undocumented and having just friends and things like that that have other family members who are undocumented or are documented themselves, working with undocumented immigrants as well. Like, just hearing just the gravity of the fear, like, it's just so heartbreaking. And like, when people don't really understand that heartbreak, they're like, oh, like, it's fine, like, that won't actually happen, or like they kind of just dismiss it. Like, I don't know, like, I think it's just like, no, you have to, like, actually understand the reality of, like, what can happen. Like, people who have been here their whole lives because their parents brought them over, and then, like, they can be deported. Like, I don't understand how you think that could be okay in that sense, or like how, like, that's not, you know, how that's, like, just, like, how is that just when they don't know anything else? Like, things like that. It's just, yeah. So I feel like I forgot what I was originally saying, but yeah, I don't really know what's going to happen, and I don't know kind of the direction of my research or just the community work that we've been doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, and I think it's unfortunate that people maybe dismiss those fears, even if they truly believe that those fears are unfounded and they won't actually come true, that Trump won't do everything that he said he was going to do. I think that there needs to be a recognition that people really are genuinely scared, and at least, you know, make them feel like they're being heard and listened to, and validate those fears, because there's, you know, if you feel that scared and then you also feel like you're not being listened to, like, that's got to be compounding the emotional spectrum.
I mean, and that's like another thing is I also study, I feel like more of my interest is mental health and kind of acculturation and things like that. And one of my classes right now I'm taking is acculturation. And so I just looked into a lot of studies about mental health and how, you know, just basically everything's saying like assimilation. So essentially, if they don't feel welcome, if they're being forced to kind of, you know, take on the culture that is not really theirs, like, all of their outcomes are pretty much negative. But like, it's like integration that has like the best outcomes physically, emotionally, mentally, like even in schools and things like that. But it's like, yeah, if the political climate is very negative and like, oh, you know, majority of the people are saying, oh yeah, we don't really want you here, like, obviously that's not going to be good and helpful to really integrate into the community.
Oh yeah. I've made that point for years now, is that it's funny that the people who talk the most about assimilation, who go, well, these immigrants are not assimilating, are also at the same time the same ones who are rejecting immigrants. So, I mean, certainly the analogy that I've used before is if you walk, like, say you went to a party and you didn't know anybody, the one where everybody acted like, well, I don't know you, I'm not going to talk to you, you know, they just kind of leave you alone, you're not going to feel at home there, you're not going to be comfortable there, you're going to stay by yourself. If everybody's like, hey, come on in, oh, what's your name, I'm so-and-so, here, have, you know, you feel at home there, you will become more like them, you will become one of them. So it's us then. Otherwise, it's us and them. And, you know, if the three of us went to this party and nobody talked to us and everybody treated us, we would all sit together and we'd talk to each other. We would keep our own language, we'd keep, you know, all those things that people complain about immigrants doing, that's what they do when you act like you don't want them. That's not what they do when you act like you do want them. When you act like you do want them, they're like, hey, I like your football and I like your hot dogs. You know, they start getting interested in things and they assimilate. It's not the goal, it's a natural thing to do when you're with people that you're comfortable with, is to adopt characteristics of theirs, and then they adopt some of yours, and it's an exchange. So yeah, you're right. I mean, there's no way.
I mean, I think it's just hard, like, where do you even begin to change people's mindset on that, you know? I mean, I think that's probably a core foundational issue, is just what,
Yeah.
I mean, people's mindset. Well, people don't really want to change what they think, and they'll always try to kind of
cling
cling
to their
to
own beliefs. Yeah.
Well, that's what I worry about. We may have gone too far. I mean, we may be too far down the road of a split personality in this country to reconcile without being forced to. You know what I mean? Because there are alternate realities. In creating an alternate reality, the right has effectively created, this dual system, and there is no like you were saying earlier, like, how do we reconcile? How do I say, oh, it's okay that you're a racist, it's okay that you're all these things, I still love you anyway because you're my neighbor? I don't. If I discover that you're all these terrible things, I don't love you. You're not, you're a human being. I care about you. I would save you from a fire if I could, but you're not my friend, and you're not going to be, because your belief system, your values are in opposition to mine.
Right. Well, so I want to go back to what you said about assimilation, but before that, I think that there is something to be said for engaging, and not to have an ulterior motive, but engaging on a human level, so that if you really see someone, if you're perceiving and listening and engaging with them, and they do hold racist or sexist or whatever other traits, values that they have, I would hope that I would be the kind of person who would be able to engage and try and convince someone otherwise. Of course, that's much easier said than done.
Yeah.
But there's, that's the idea. I think that's the one end of the spectrum. It's like reconcile through understanding, and understanding where the person is coming from, and actually trying to, I think that it can often come off as very condescending, as like, I'm going to teach you what's right.
Yeah.
You're clearly wrong.
Right.
And I'm going to, and I'm educated. I have all the knowledge and information I'm going to impart to you, you backwards, racist, whatever. And I think that's part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm too angry to do that right now. I don't think I have the patience or the energy, let alone, the belief that could actually change something. I mean, I would hope that it would, but I don't know that it can.
Yeah.
But so within this immigration class that we're a part of, we've read a lot of stuff about sort of this assimilationist idea. And I think that that's sort of previously been the norm in the United States, is immigrants come in and, like, they're assimilated, like they learn English and they become part of the
dominant culture.
Yeah, the norm, like the status quo. And I think I hope that it's changing so that there's more space created for cultural difference. Whereas, if, at least for me anyway, when I hear assimilated or assimilationist or, I don't know, any of those synonyms, it seems to me like it's writing over people's difference, and it's writing over their culture. And I feel like that's a passive form of attack, that the dominant culture, it asserts itself and says, you have to be like us. You have to change. You can't be different. And I hope that it could change so that people want to exchange differences in beliefs and ideas and activities and their cultures in a friendly, mutually beneficial way.
Yeah.
But I don't think that necessarily means that people have to be assimilated, right? I mean, I think language is one thing. You can't understand people unless you you can understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
And really listen to them.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know if that's. I don't even know if I would necessarily call it integration. I don't. We talk about a lot of these words, and it seems like there's a new term every few
Oh, yeah.
years, right? But
That's your job as academics, is to
Right.
invent new terms.
Right.
And then make sure that no one understands them but you, so that when you use them, you sound really smart.
yeah, and I can be condescending and
Yeah.
impart all my knowledge and information to you. Yeah, that's what we do.
You think you know it all, man.
We're really
I
jerks,
know
aren't
stuff too. Okay, well, we have about 5 minutes left. Is there anything that you were like dying to say when you came in here that we haven't talked about yet? Any topics other than the election? What else? What's new with you other than the election? Got a new car?
No. What's new with me? I don't know.
Got a new nice
Thanksgiving.
coat?
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving's
yeah.
I'm
coming
excited
up.
about
Break's
that.
coming up. Are you going home?
I am.
Huh?
That'll
Where
be
is home?
nice. Chicago.
Chicago.
Suburbs.
It's a safe
So-
space, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Safety. Yeah.
You going away, or are you gonna?
No, my parents usually come to visit us.
Okay.
We were in D.C. before I came to Illinois, which is really nice. The mall is empty on Thanksgiving. It's beautiful. You go at night, it's kind of chilly, crisp. Brought our dog. It's really fun. So I missed that. But yeah, my parents can't come this year because they can't get dog sitters. So
Oh, no.
I think we'll just have some friends over. And they want us to come to Ann Arbor, but I don't feel like making that trip. Too depressed.
Yeah.
Even though I love Ann Arbor.
So I take it neither of your families have split apart because of this. That's good.
As far as I know, no one in my family voted for Trump.
Yeah. I'm fairly sure that my parents did, but they're in their 90s, so it's like I'm not going to ask. And I don't see them anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
It's like avoiding the comments section, right?
yeah. No, yeah. They're yeah. Well, one benefit to getting really old, at least for some people, is that they start recognizing their dependence on other people, and they stop thinking like they can lord it over, or be oppressive in some way. They recognize like, oh, I'd better not push this because I'm going to have to ask this person to clean my gutters or something at some point. So that's one benefit. It's not great, but I don't know. So yeah, so break is coming up. You're going away, you're going to stay here. It's nice fall weather out there.
It
You have to admit the weather's been great lately. Really nice.
I live pretty close to here, so I actually walked here.
Yeah.
And I was hoping to see a better supermoon.
That'd be
But
pretty cool.
it was pretty typical moon. Didn't look 20,000, was it miles or something?
Yeah.
Closer.
something like that.
It looked bigger to me when I was
Did it?
driving here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have just been the time. I don't know.
It's not like this harvest moon
I was
stuff,
hoping
right?
for something like
Yeah.
epic.